morning, everyone. This is so wonderful seeing everyone here today. We have a packed house today. Wow. I'd like to think it's about me, but obviously we are here for someone else today. And this someone else actually happens to be a very dear friend of mine, Reverend Kerry Kiyohara. Reverend Kerry Kiyohara is the resident minister of Makawao Buddhist Temple on the island of Maui, serving Makawao Hongwanji Mission of Hawaii, or Hawaii, right? I should say it correctly, Hawaii. Kerry was ordained as a priest of Jodo Shinshu Hongwanji Ha, or Nishi Hongwanji, in 2016, then graduated from the Chuo Bukkyo Gakuin Seminary School in Kyoto, was certified as a teacher and assigned as Kaikyoshi missionary to Hawaii in 2018. Reverend Kerry previously worked as a CEO, COO, CMO, consultant, and copywriter in Los Angeles, Tokyo, Beijing, Shanghai, and Honolulu. Reverend Kerry graduated with a BA and MBA degrees from the University of Southern California. And he speaks English, Japanese, basic Spanish, and survival Chinese, but is mystified by Takai Pidgin, or Hawaiian Creole English. I should also like to mention that Reverend Kerry Kiyohara was present when I first went to Japan back in 2018, when I first came there. And it's thanks to Reverend Kerry Kiyohara that I survived my year at Chuo Bukkyo Gakuin. When I was able to meet him in person in Japan, he took me out a couple of times and then showed me around a little bit. But most importantly, explained to me what the culture was like at Chuo Bukkyo Gakuin, or the seminary school at which I attended. And every now and then, I would email him or message him through Facebook, some of the issues I was going through or some of the other things that I was confused about. And thanks to Reverend Kerry Kiyohara, he explained to me what the proper things to do were, or, this is why this is happening, or this is the cultural thing you should expect, right? So it's much thanks to Reverend Kiyohara that I was able to survive my experience at Chuo Bukkyo Gakuin. So without further ado, I would like us all to give a warm welcome to my very dear friend, Reverend Kerry Kiyohara.
So I'm actually delighted to have this opportunity to share this moment of this day, of this unusual life with all of you here. We're going to be starting with the children's Dharma story time. There you go, that's just the first one. Get ready? And here we go. So, for the Dharma School students, I do have to apologize. I totally forgot to bring my hand puppets. So you're going to have to use your imagination. The left hand, this is a rascal dog hand puppet. And yes, this is what my face actually looks like. And then the right hand, you have to pretend that it's a ladybug hand puppet named Lucy. So here we go.
And now, live from Tacoma, it's Children's Dharma Story Time with Barkley the Dog and Lucy the Ladybug. Bob's house. It's me, Barkley the Dog, the rascal dog, the star of the Children's Dharma Story Time. And this here is the love of my life, Lucy the Ladybug. Aloha kaku, aloha for everyone. It's so nice to be here in the beautiful city of Tacoma, in the great state of Washington, with all of you here this morning. Mahalo for inviting us. Today we have a wonderful story to share. The kids who said thank you too much. The kids who say thank you too much. Once upon a time, in a magical place called Hawaii, there lived a little girl and a little boy. Hawaii was filled with kind and gentle people who always said aloha with big smiles and friendly hugs. One day, the little girl and little boy were walking to school. Suddenly, the school bully, who was always grumpy and mean, stopped him. Give me your lunch money. The little girl and little boy smiled and said, thank you, and gave the bully their lunch money. The school bully was very surprised because usually kids were afraid of him, and this made him feel strong. The school bully was so confused, he gave back their lunch money. Thank you, said the little boy and the little girl. Then some bigger kids started teasing the little girl and little boy. You're dumb. And silly too, they said. The little girl and little boy smiled and said, thank you. Yes, we need to study harder. Thank you. The bigger kids were very confused because usually the kids they teased would cry, and that would make them feel powerful. So they stopped teasing the little girl and the little boy. At recess, the little girl and the little boy were playing in the sandbox, making a big castle in the sand. Suddenly, the school bully and the bigger kids ran over their castle until it was just little piles of sand. The school bully and the bigger kids were sure that the little girl and the little boy would cry this time. The little girl and the little boy smiled and said, thank you. Now we can make an even better castle. Thank you. The school bully and the bigger kids were very confused. Usually little kids would be sad and start to cry. Shaking their heads, the school bully and the bigger kids said, what's wrong with these kids? They say thank you too much. It's no fun to bully or tease them. And just then, Amida Buddha appeared. Amida smiled and said, aloha. What happened, children? Why are you looking so confused? The school bully said, Amida, I was mean to the little girl and little boy. I took their lunch money. But they said, thank you. I was so confused because usually kids are afraid of me. So I gave them their money back. And they said, thank you, again. The bigger kids said, we teased the little girl, little kids and called them names. The little girl and little boy just smiled and said, thank you. Usually little kids cry when we tease them, but they just said, thank you. The school bully and the bigger kids said, then we ran over their sandcastle until it was just little piles of sand, and we were sure they'd cry. But the little girl and the little boy just said, thank you, because we gave them a chance to build an even better sandcastle. The school bully and the bigger kids said, the little girl and little boy say thank you too much, and it's no fun to bully them, or tease them, or smash their sandcastle. Amida Buddha smiled and said, what did you learn from the little girl and the little boy? The school bully thought very carefully and said, I know. Sometimes things don't go the way we want them to. And to be honest, I only bully little kids because it makes me feel strong. But in my heart of hearts, I'm lonely because I'm so much bigger than the other kids. They're afraid of me. That's so silly. I just want to be friends. Amida Buddha smiled and said, that's very wise. Sometimes we do things without thinking that actually end up hurting us more than the other people. The bigger kids thought carefully and said, we know, we only tease little kids because we're secretly afraid someone will tease us. We're afraid someone will call us names or make fun of us. But it's so silly. We just want to be friends. Amida Buddha smiled and said, that's very wise. Sometimes we try to hurt other people's feelings because we're afraid they might hurt ours. The little girl and the little boy smiled at Amida and said, thank you, Amida. You taught us that life can be difficult sometimes, but that is an opportunity to be kind and gentle to every living thing. You taught us that nothing lasts forever, but that just means we can always start over. We should be thankful for everything in this unrepeatable life. Amida Buddha smiled and said, you children are so wise. Now, what are you going to do today? The school bully, the bigger kids, the little girl and the little boy, all smiled and said together, we're going to say thank you too much. And share what we have and speak pure and beautiful words and play together in harmony. Namo Amidas. Thank you, Amida. Amida looked a smile and said, Mahalo, children. Thank you, children, for being such wise girls and boys. Anytime you need me, just say Namo Amidatsu, and I'm always ready to help you. All the children smiled and waved to Amida and said, Mahalo, Amida. Thank you, Amida. Thank you for always helping us. Namo Amidas. And the children all lived happily ever after, playing together in harmony on a white sandy beach in a magical place called Hawaii. 8 beautiful islands in the middle of the big blue sea. The end. So you're going to have to imagine I've got puppets on my hands again. Barkley the dog, Lucy Ladybird. Yeah, what a great story. Hey, Donald, what part of the story did you like? Really? I love that part too. Say thank you too much. Really, I never thought about it that way. Imagine what the world would be like if everybody said, everyone says thank you too much. It was a little thing. Well, imagine what Tacoma Hongwanji would be like if everyone in the northwest part of the United States said, everyone at Tacoma Buddhist Temple says thank you too much. Wouldn't that be wonderful? Well, that's right. If everyone just said thank you or mahalo or arigato or gracias, shay too much, then everybody could live together as ohana, as a big happy family, and share the aloha, the love of life. Well, that's very profound of you, Barkley. Well, yeah, thank you, Sensei. I love using big words, don't you? Yes, I try my best. Barkley, let's give Sensei a chance to give the Dharma Talk for adults now. Yeah, that's a great idea, Lucy. Sensei's Dharma Talk for the adults always makes me sleepy. What do you say we go to social hall and see what's for refreshments? Oh, Barkley, you had me at refreshments. We go. Fade to black. Sensei, you forgot something. Remember, kids, be good. Not too much. Okay, see y'all next week. Bye. Sorry, not next week. And with that, I believe that's the end of my children's Dharma Talk. Although I would like to give you a little bit of homework. This is the Mahalo Challenge. Mahalo is the Hawaiian word for thank you. Okay, so for starting today, for the next 10 days, please help me out and say mahalo, say thank you 10 times a day. Okay, find a reason, create a reason, no reason, just say thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you. And at the end of 10 days, you'll have said thank you 100 times. Okay, I'll bet you a chocolate chip cookie that the world around you will be different. People around you will be happier. You feel happy. So just give it a try. Okay? So when I do this with preschool students, they're very clever. They're smarter than Sensei. They do things like, okay, just say mahalo 10 times. Okay, Sensei, I can do that. Mahalo, 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 mahalo. That's 10 times. I'm done. What's next, Sensei? And Sensei, despite his education, is kind of like, I didn't think that far. Try again tomorrow. So anyway, please try the Mahalo Challenge. Mahalo for listening, for coming this morning, and may your day be filled with aloha.
Namo.
So as we're getting the technology set up here, I just want to say this is actually the second time I forgot to take the puppets with me. They're actually supposed to be quite easy. Maybe you get the question, what does be good but not too much mean? But it's actually exactly as it says. You always tell children, be good. But the Buddhist view is not too good. In the sense of pretending to be good. It's different. So be good, but not too much. So anyway, we're there. So for the adults, unfortunately there are no hand puppets. And it's actually, usually I do these things back to back, so it's actually a hard act to follow with the puppets and stuff. So, but I actually, I like to open today's talk by talking about, continuing the theme of gratitude. I think you're going to see a lot of academic research, medical research coming out that gratitude is good for your health and well-being. That sounds familiar. That's just like mindfulness and meditation. So this is the next great thing you're going to see, shall we say, inspired by Buddhism, separate the three treasures from it, and then make a lot of money. You're going to see a lot of stuff coming out about gratitude. So let's think about that gratitude. So in the story, the whole idea was that the kids were saying, thank you too much. So for the adults, we're the adults in the room, is it really possible to say thank you too much? And this is why I got the whole kind of the joke about saying mahalo, 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 mahalo. Just saying it 10 times. It's actually quite easy. It's actually quite easy. But I think you'll find it's difficult to continue. If you can make it to 10 days, you can make it to 100 days. So imagine if you spent all of your day coming up with reasons to be grateful. Reasons to be grateful. And even if you can't find a reason to be grateful, just say thank you. Just say mahalo. Just say mahalo. The second question I like to ask the adults is feeling gratitude, feeling grateful, the same thing as expressing gratitude? It was pointed out to me last night that you don't have to say thank you. There's many different ways you can do it. In the Buddhist tradition, we would say kind eyes, a peaceful face. So wagen aiko, which is the larger sutra. Because you see a lot of stuff like on Facebook and social media saying, be grateful. Have you ever noticed that all that stuff is in the command form of the language? Be grateful. It's always, you should do something. I do this, I'm grateful, you're not. See, your life is messed up, mine is great. And this is the kind of the American way of doing social media. What people really want is to be able to tell people to do something. So I meditate, you should too. You're stressed out, you should try meditation. I do, look, I'm not stressed out. Actually, if you know me in real life, sorry, I could leave up a mask. If you know me in real life, I'm actually very stressed out all the time. I tell people I'm a stress addict. And when you're addicted to stress, right, if you don't have enough stress externally, you create stress internally. But I'm addicted to stress. It's my stimulant. It's very strange. But imagine if you were addicted to feeling grateful, to gratitude. So the Buddha taught, right, that it's really easy to, quote unquote, feel grateful when someone, when I receive a present from someone, when something pleasant for me happens, or when someone shows me kindness and consideration. Because the Buddha taught that born human, we are self-centered. We're selfish. It's me first. Me. My ego, my ego, my ego. And yesterday we talked about we tend to define ourselves through the ego. Not who I really am, but rather what I've done, the schools I've attended, the degrees I've accumulated, all those titles. I actually was an advertising copywriter, which I put all the C's in a row, and there's 5 of them, that sounds good. But it's actually true. I mean, and to the high school students, I would say, I did everything my mom and dad wanted me to do. I went to college, went to USC. Actually, I went to UCLA my first year on a full scholarship in the state of California. I had so much fun, I flunked out. Don't do that. Try hard not to flunk out, lose your scholarship. I ended up going to USC. But you start thinking about this stuff, right? When someone gives me a present, I feel happy. And it's easy to feel grateful when it's happening to you. And that's kind of the point. But what happens when you give someone a present, right? And you do something nice for someone, but they don't say thank you? Now me, I get angry. I mean, I really do get quite angry. Which is why, of course, as parents and uncles and aunties and parents, grandparents, one of the first things we teach children is say thank you. Say thank you. Which is why, as adults, when we become an adult, when we give a present, when we do something nice for someone, we expect a thank you. In fact, we feel entitled to a thank you. So as you know, in the Jodo Shinshu, Buddhism, Pure Land tradition, the Mahayana tradition, which emphasizes the 6 paramita perfections, the first of which is Dharma, or selfless or egoless generosity. So doing things without any expectation of recognition or reward. Just doing it. Consideration for others. So in other words, you do things for other people without expecting a thank you. But how many times, right, in reflection, how many times have you been irritated or become angry because there's no thank you, or the thank you is late, or there's a thank you but it doesn't feel sincere? So not only does my ego, not only do me, right, my ego expect a thank you, that thank you must be on time and sincere. So the late Reverend Dr. Taitetsu Muno, he asked the question, to whom are we saying thank you? And who are we thanking when we say thank you? So he shares this story, a story about gratitude. Genza was a farmer in Shimane, Japan. One day, Genza's maid was going to visit her parents. So as tradition, Genza, who is a farmer, gave her a bag of potatoes and said, please, share this with your mother and father. So about 2 weeks later, when the maid comes home, comes back to Genza's farm, she says, my parents told me I must thank you for the potatoes. Thank you very much. Whereupon Genza replies, don't thank me, thank the potatoes. Not what it is. So this is quoted in Dr. Unno's book, Gratitude, Its Source and Power. And Dr. Unno lived from 1929 to 2014. Thank the potatoes. Let's think about that. Thank the potatoes. Thank the potatoes. Who are we thanking? Who are we thanking? Thank the potatoes. So be mindful, be aware, appreciate the causes and conditions that led to gratefully receiving a bag of potatoes. Right? It took seeds, it took soil, it took water, it took air. It took a farmer working hard, it took people picking the vegetables, it took people to package the vegetables, and modern times to put them on trucks, to put in a distribution center, to take it to the supermarket, and then there's a guy who gets paid minimum wage to put them on the shelves, and then there's a unionized cashier at the checkout thing, and then you go home, somebody's got to wash those potatoes, somebody's got to peel them, or unless you can skin them, and chop them up, cook them, prepare the meal, serve the meal, take the dishes back, wash the dishes. So, who are we thanking? Who are we thanking? So when we stop to thank the potatoes, we realize that it is the great love and great compassion of Amida Buddha that is already embracing us. Because we're ordinary human beings, we're not Superman. We're self-centered and we're selfish, doing the best we can to live this unrepeatable life in this chaotic world of confusion and delusion that we live in. I don't think anyone would deny that we live in a very chaotic world. And this, of course, is described 2,500 years ago in the Buddhist cosmology, the 6 realms of existence. Now, if we were truly, if I was exceptional, or as extraordinary as I would like to believe, as my ego would like me to believe, I could have shaved my head and lived as a monk and awakened to reality as it has become Buddha in this body, in this life. This would be true for me and Tadao and Cindy. If we were truly exceptional people, we'd be meditating our way to enlightenment. But we're not able to do that. And if any Hongwanji minister stands up and says, I am Buddha, run for the door. we're not Buddha. I'm not special by any means. So you have to think about that. If you're an extraordinary person, you would have gone to the path of discipline. You would have meditate, you try to master all these techniques, you meditate under the tree, etc., etc., etc. So this story, right, thank the potatoes, it's a simple reminder that saying Namo Amitabha is an expression of gratitude for everything, everywhere, all at once. And this is the reality as it is that we refer to as Amida Buddha. This is everything, everywhere, all at once. This entire reality as it is Amida Buddha. So Namo Amida Butsu, Namo Amida Buddha, is both the calling voice of Amida. Take refuge in Amida Butsu. Take refuge in Amida Buddha. Don't worry so much. Amida Buddha's got your back. So this is the faith of Shinjin, the entrusting heart and mind of non-discrimination, the heart and mind of Amida working in our unrepeatable lives. To we too go forth to birth into the pure, and we become Buddha instantaneously. We return to this human world of human confusion and delusion in oneness with Amida Buddha to guide others to their birth. So when we awaken to the truth and the working of Amida's compassionate vow to save all beings, all, beginning with the ordinary ones like us, we truly understand that we are the object of Amida's compassion. We truly and joyfully and gratefully receive this faith of Shinjin, and we say Namo Amida in joyful gratitude. So when we awaken to this reality as it is, we begin to see compassion everywhere. We just say, Mahalo, we just say thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you. We just say, Namo Amida. So you may be puzzled when you see long-time members of the Hongwanji and something good happens. Something inconvenient happens. Oh, the PA system is broken again. Oh, someone just deleted a new digital interface for the PA system. Oh, I'm getting old. I fell down and I broke my arm. As ministers, we get called to do a lot of end-of-life visitation. And despite being a very cynical MBA with a CEO's attitude, it was my end of experiences of visiting people at the end of life that taught me everything I knew to know. That revealed to me that CEO wasn't what I really wanted to be when I grew up. I was just doing what you're told. You go to MBA school, they tell you, you're going to be CEO. And you get an MBA, you have to be CEO. My mother and father wanted their children to graduate from university. My brother is a software architect, actually a brilliant software architect. He drops out of USC in his second year, gets a job at Hughes Aircraft. He actually designed the software behind the terrain mapping system B-1 Bomber, which, if you're old enough, you know that was to fly under the Soviet Union's radar screens and be real close to the ground, fly up and down the mountains and stuff. But imagine that. This is my brother, and he's doing this stuff with the largest defense contractor in the United States of America. Top secret project. He didn't tell me it's still 10 years afterwards. But he was making 3 times the money that my mother and father were making put together. But what does that mean, a second son? Somebody's got to graduate from college. And this is the son who just flunked out of UCLA using a scholarship. Not such a great thing. But that too, my response has to be, no, that's not. True self-awareness means, I know I messed up. It was my fault. I can't blame anybody else. I have to take responsibility for that. But at the same time, I had flunked out of UCLA. I wouldn't have gone to USC. I wouldn't have studied Japanese. I wouldn't have an exchange program in Japan. Met the woman who becomes my wife. And ended up with a 25-year career as an expatriate executive working in Tokyo and Beijing and Shanghai. I'm the son of a gardener, 3rd-generation Japanese-American from California. My mother and father were put into the internment camps during the war. They came out of the camps, they were Japs. The only place the Japs could live were in the undesirable neighborhoods. So I grew up, all my friends were black or Hispanic. So I grew up, one, running really fast and having a love of James Brown. But I also speak Spanish. I mean, if you ever visited Los Angeles, if you don't speak Spanish, you're not going to get very much food, I'll tell you that. Yo quiero dos tacos, por favor. And that's just give me 2 tacos, please. But that's really it. So when we think about gratitude, and I'm actually quite serious about, try to say mahalo, try to say thank you 10 times today. If you could do it 10 times today, mindfully, consciously, deliberately, do it tomorrow, then the next day, then the next day. Just say thank you. Just say thank you. Remember, in the Hongwanji tradition, when we say Namo Amida, we're saying thank you to Amida. We're saying thank you to everything, everywhere, all at once, for this reality. It may not be very convenient, but no, thank you, thank you, thank you. So, let's shift gears. This is the Eshinni and Kakushinni memorial service. So it's tradition, of course, and I know the BW president will come up and also talk about Eshinni and Kakushinni. Also, I noticed there's a very lovely brochure in the lobby, so please be sure to get one on the way out. But I'd like to give you my perspective on it because, I mean, we know the basic story of Eshinni, which is she's on the left. The wife of Shinran Shonin, she's the mother of 7 children. We know that she's of noble class. She was born to aristocratic family, landholding family. We know that she was quite educated. Her writing is extraordinarily literate for her time. Now, she is also known as the first woman to openly marry a priest. So remember, in the Japanese tradition at the time, they were monks. They're supposed to be celibate. They're not supposed to get married. They're not supposed to have children. Now, honestly, to be true, I mean, historically speaking, Buddhist priests would have children, and their son would take over the temple. Wait a minute, the monk, he's a monk. He's celibate. He's not supposed to be having babies. How did that happen? But the son becomes the chief priest of the temple. So, in other words, Shinran and Eshinni were the first to do openly. But imagine what courage it must take to defy convention like that in Japan. To be different, to be openly different. Right? To say, this is me. We're going to get married and have children. And Eshinni continued to support Shinran throughout its entire life, during the exile at Echigo. And during his travels, his propagation, his sharing the Dharma in the Kanto area, where Shinran builds this huge following among commoners, but also among merchants, the wealthy and powerful people of the time. And she also, in his later life, in his later life, they weren't living together. She returns to her family land holdings to manage the estate. But Shinran goes to Kyoto to complete his research and studies in his later part of his life. If you're familiar with the writings of Shinran, some of his greatest writing, his most profound stuff comes in his last 10 years, let's say. Look at Shinran's writings during his 80s. It's remarkable stuff going on there. Also, did you know that before 1921, the very existence of Shinran as a real person, as a real human being, was fiercely debated. There's a big academic school that said Shinran did not exist. It's a myth, a legend created by some of the other people in the home country. And so this goes back and forth. In 1921, in a warehouse, in the very back of the warehouse of the Hongwanji, they discovered a bundle of letters written by Eshinni. And these are documented, these are shown to be her writing. And this actually gives us the only insight into Shinran as a human being. Right? All the other writings is kind of legendary, Shinran was this amazing person. But through her letters, we see Shinran as the husband, as a father, right? as this priest who's lost his priest license and still continues to share the members of teachings. So when I first heard about this, I said, really? There was an argument that Shinran didn't exist? Wow, okay. One thing, which you might not be too aware of, is that if Eshinni was here, we asked her, she would say, actually, I'm a failure as a mother. I'm a failure as a mother. Shinran, in his later life, had to disown their eldest son for spreading false teachings. Imagine that. And Shinran never wanted to be venerated. He never wanted to have a mausoleum built to him. He never wanted to have a big temple and have a separate sect or school of Buddhism, and having the Hongwanji become the dominant form of Buddhism in Japan. He'd be shocked. He'd be absolutely shocked. He'd say, that's not what I wanted. So here's one of my favorite quotes. So when Shinran was asked where he should be buried, he said to have replied, throw my body into the Makawao River and let the fish feed on it. And there's the actual source, the credit and attribution from that. But it's a famous story, right? He said, no, I don't want to have any fancy funerals. I don't want to have any fancy mausoleums or things built in my memory. No. Just throw my body in the river, let the fish eat it. That's pretty practical. The greatest contribution, so why do we say no women, no Hongwanji? So Eshinni and Kakushinni, together they create what's known as the Usushiki system, whereas a blood descendant of Kakushinni would always be the keeper of the mausoleum of Shinran. And this becomes the Monshu system. So today, number 25, our Monshu, Old Tani Kojun, is the 25th descendant of Kakushinni. And thus, of course, Shima. So Shima, Eshinni, Kakushinni, and then all the way to number 20. So, right, these women, back 800 years ago, create this system, design a system such that the institution lives on today. Think about that. If we didn't have Hongwanji, there wouldn't be BCA, and there wouldn't be Tacoma Buddhist Temple. We wouldn't be here. We wouldn't be here today. So Kakushinni, let's talk about the youngest daughter of Shima. So she cares for Shima in his final years in Kyoto. He's in his 80s, which is a remarkable age for the 12th century. I mean, people didn't live that long. This is like some crazy stuff. She literally builds the foundation for the Hongwanji. She builds a mausoleum for Shima. And so many visitors, and so many people who come to pay their respects. They have to expand this mausoleum several times. So, and this eventually becomes the Hongwanji Temple, the largest, most powerful Buddhist denomination. The interesting facts that I learned in the seminary was that she convinced her husband to donate the land for the first mausoleum. And so we just keep land for freedom. They create that Usushiki system, which ensures the blood descendant is the keeper of the faith, basically. So when we think about how without these women, we wouldn't be here. To give you even more context, did you know that Buddhism is the first major religion to allow women equal opportunity for enlightenment? Up until then, women were considered defiled, impure, I guess is the simplest way to put it. And this, of course, is an attitude which crosses cultures, etc. But until then, there was no option, there was no way for a female to pursue enlightenment. It is said that Shakyamuni's auntie, Prajapati, who raised Siddhartha, it's not included in the BCA version of the American version of the story, but Siddhartha's mother dies about 6 days after his birth. He's raised by his auntie. So from a very early age, he knows the truth of impermanence. He knows about death. So anyway, so she raises him. It is said that she, the auntie who raised Prince Siddhartha, has to make pilgrimages, which is traveling long distance. We don't have cars back then. It's traveling across India to get to where the Buddha is. And it takes 3 times, but she finally convinces Shakyamuni to allow women, that women must be allowed equal access to the path that leads to enlightenment. So thanks to Prajapati, Buddhism becomes the first major religion to allow women this opportunity. So another thing to think about Eshinni, often she's referred to as Lady Eshin, and Eshinni, so her name is Eshin. Ni actually refers to Bhikkhuni, which is a female monk, not lady as it's often presented. She was of noble birth, so yes, in English we would call her lady. But the suffix ni often refers to a noble woman who has become a monk and renounced the material world. In other words, become a disciple of Buddha. But this actually is limited to very elite people. This page. So the descendants of Eshinni and Kakushinni, they grow Jodoshin, the largest Buddhist denomination in Japan. And then grows it into Jodoshin, the largest Japanese Buddhist denomination outside of Japan, including here, including the Tacoma Buddhist Temple. So you consider that. This temple would not be here. We would not be here if it were not for Kakushinni, Eshinni, and Prajapati. So there'd be no Hongwanji, there'd be no temple, there'd be no service today. There'd be no hot dogs for lunch. So we wouldn't be sure that Shima actually existed. We might still be debating whether it's a mythical figure created by the institution. And it's very possible that Jodoshinshu teachings would have died with Shima. So thanks to these women, we are here today as a Sangha, as a Buddhist community, here at this temple. This temple is here accepting all of us just as we are because of these women. So thank you, Prajapati. Thank you, Eshinni. Thank you, Kakushinni. Because without women, there'd be no Hongwanji. So we should just say mahalo. We should say thank you to Eshinni, Kakushinni, and Prajapati. So let's do that, okay? Mahalo, 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 mahalo. Okay, you're done with your homework for today. So mahalo, thank you very much for listening this morning, and may your day be filled with mahalo.
No.